Hello everybody, I am Tom and you are watching me play Path of Exile 2. So today we're diving into the newest patch, the Third Edict, and we're going to talk about what I liked about it, what's good, what still needs work, and how it stacks up to POE 1 currently. Because I am a POE 1 Andy, I love POE 1 much more than POE 2 at this point, but with every update they're making POE 2 a bit more like POE 1 and I'm liking it more and more, so we'll go into it. First off, I'll start with the story, because honestly, I really enjoyed it. The overarching plot is actually quite simple. You're basically just going around with Sin hunting down the Third Edict, or the pieces of this weapon, which is just, it's a corruption siphoning kind of MacGuffin. It's made by the precursors, so like the old civilization or whatever, and Sin has these weird memories of it from when he was mortal. But the basic idea is very simple, just go collect the pieces of this MacGuffin. But the story is told in a very engaging way, particularly the characters felt really well written. If you actually listen to all their dialogue and go through all their dialogue, it's all fantastic, feels very natural, and is great for world building. There are also quite a few callbacks to POE 1, which is a really nice touch. For example, you can find the remnants of Nico's old delve mine in one of the islands. That kind of continuity, like, is really rewarding for someone like me who plays all, like, POE 1 and, like, is a POE 1 Andy, and I see that, and I was like, that was, like, such a cool moment, where I just was walking along, and I saw the shape of the island, and I just went, hang on, this is the delve camp, and then I found the note from Nico, which went through it. I'll put in a screenshot of it now. But it was really cool. This is, what the hell? This is the delve encampment. I recognize this track. This is where Nico hangs out in POE 1. I just immediately recognize this just by the way that they've shaped it.
My voltaxic canaries.
Is this Nico?
How is it that you're running scared of this blind beastie? It can't even bloody see. They're whispering in the dark. Every moment now, licking at our fear, tasting our sweat. We need more sulfite. Here we all are, lying about, sick as dogs, evil closing in around us. Get that sulfite, no matter what it takes. This green lot won't stand in our way, not with all we've got down here.
It is Nico. Interesting.
Give it time, my sweethearts, give it time. Your master, Nico.
Interesting. So is Nico going fucking crazy? It's possible. Act 4 in particular really stood out. The kind of Maori-inspired theme that the crew have is really cool. The Maoris are the coolest of the Polynesian people, I'm just saying. They're just the best. And it really gave the whole act had this really culturally strong identity. The interlude chapters did surprise me as well. On paper, again, they're very similar. They're very similar to Act 4 in that they are very simple, but the writing really carries them. They're short and they're very concise, but they are very well told stories. And they make sense, really. It's essentially just, hey, we've got to go gather the troops. So we're just gonna, it's like a one and done episode kind of feeling where you go and help these guys and then they're like, oh, you've helped us. Now we're free to come help you in the big fight to come. Now, when it comes to actually playing through the acts, there's still some problems I have with the areas. I still have, like, a few reservations. The zones still feel way too large for me. Like, there's one thing where the maps feel a bit too big. That is true in a lot of the maps at Endgame, but I feel the big problem is actually in campaign. There's so many of the areas that are just huge. Like, to the point where some of them you could literally cut down by, like, 2/3 the size of the map. You could just cut 2/3 off, and they would be more purposeful without losing any of the atmosphere. All of them still feel way too big for my mind. Another pay point is replayability. This kind of ties into the zones being too big, but I think GGG really needs to look at making the campaign progression smoother for alt characters that you're doing in the same league. So I feel like the first time you go through the league, it should be the full experience. You should have to play through the relatively long campaign. That's fine. If you're doing it for the first character of the league, everyone's doing it around the same time. It's a cool experience. You can have that be essentially as long as you want, as long as it's not getting boring. That's kind of fine. The problem is, I'm really disincentivized to making a second or a third character, particularly a third character. Second character I might push my way through, but not a third. It's so hard to go through the campaign when it takes this long on a subsequent character. So, I think they need to make some smoother progression. My suggestion that would make a big difference, I think, would to be make all of the upgrades that you get from side bosses, make them permanent upgrades for the campaign account for the league. So, for instance, if you get the candle boss in the manor in Act 1, that gives you 10% fire resistance. Make that all the characters in the league. So if I make another character in the league, he already has that upgrade. This is obviously somewhat power creeping because it means your character is going to start off a hell of a lot more powerful. But that's fine because you want that to be the case anyway. That's always going to happen because you're going to have better gear. So your gear is always going to be better in the first place. But it would just eliminate a bunch of side areas and backtracking that you just don't have to do on a subsequent character. Also, talking about the gear, there does need to be more twink items. Like, please. Like, you need good early game leveling uniques that you aren't likely to find while you're doing your first playthrough. But after you've been in maps for a while, it's quite possible you find one that just gives you 30% movement speed at level 1, for instance. Like, it's like just a pair of boots that gives you a bunch of movement speed and a bunch of resistances. That's not a good unique, but it's a fantastic unique to throw on your new level character that you just decided you wanted to level. Like, that, you need stuff like that. If you're gonna have crappy uniques in the game, which there are a bunch of crappy uniques in the game, the problem is they're not fit for purpose, which is the idea of having a crappy unique is it allows an alt character to level really well. It's just, as it stands now, I don't think there's enough of that kind of stuff. Alright, let's talk trade. So, the new in-game trade system is an absolute lifesaver. Being able to just log in and see a page of profits is such a motivator to keep playing. If you just log in and you've got a page with like 30 exalts and 2 divines just sitting there, oh my god, does it make you go, okay, cool, I've made profit even though I wasn't playing. It's such a motivator to keep playing. And the flip side of that, buying is so much smoother now, because one, the sheer market availability, because there's so much more stuff on there now. For 2 reasons. One, the selling process is easier, therefore more people are selling things. And 2, everybody who is on offline can still be bought from. So the actual market is, I don't know how much bigger, but it must be enormously bigger. But it means that buying things is so simple, and a lot of things have been brought down in price, which has stopped the hyperinflation of the currencies, which is really, it's like a side benefit, but it's also fantastic. It just makes buying so much better. Like, even in campaigns, there was time where I would earn an exalt and then immediately go and make an upgrade while I was playing through the axe. That's something I never did before. Like, I literally never even thought about doing that because you could never buy anything for like 1 exalt that was worth an upgrade. But it just shows how accessible the function has made, like, the game now. The new system makes it feel so much better. And kind of linking into trade, we have crafting. Let me just say, we actually have crafting now, because before, it was basically just pure RNG. It was horrible, I hated it. But GGG, they've said a couple of times that they don't want crafting to be too good, because they think that would devalue the ground loot. I've had the literal opposite experience though. When I couldn't meaningfully craft anything, the loot on the ground was completely boring and useless unless it was a perfect 6 out of 6 drop. Because even if you get something that has like 3 good affixes, I could never make that into something better. You like slam it with an exalt and you get something shit and then the item is just entirely destroyed. Which means I just never got anything off the ground that was ever good. Now, if I find something with a couple of good stats, I can take it further myself with a real chance of making that into a usable piece of gear, which makes loot actually exciting again. I care if there's something good on the ground, because it can be 50% of a good item or 20% of a good item, and I can take that to 70 to 80% of my perfect item. I can actually take the loot off the ground and turn it into something good. I'm also using trade differently now. Instead, what I was doing previously was I would just find one insanely expensive finished completed item, which someone just randomly dropped and got lucky on. But now, I'm more likely to actually buy a base and craft it into something that fits my build. Which is the gameplay loop in POE 1 that I really, really loved. That's how I play most of my stuff in POE 1. I buy a base, I then craft on that base up to all of my gear. All of my gear is how I do that in POE 1. And it's great to see that I can now do that in POE 2. It makes me so happy. Finally, moving on to Endgame. So, Endgame is still kind of bland and shit. I don't enjoy the endgame. And to be fair, GGG was very clear that this update isn't focused on endgame at all. Right now, POE 1 still blows POE 2 out of the water for me for endgame. I will play POE 1 endgame for like literally a month and a half. POE 2, I lose interest so quickly. Here's like a kind of top 4 reasons why. First up is Atlas progression. In POE 1, you have multiple levels of progression while you're doing the Atlas. It feels like a checklist that you're completing. In POE 2, because you have the endless kind of Atlas, you've got this endless set of maps, you never get that same sense of finishing anything. You never like complete the Atlas, quote unquote. Which, I don't know, there's just something about it that doesn't click with me. I don't like that. I need something to be completable, if that makes any sense. Also, boss progression. Again, in POE 1, you have this build-up where you get to Maven, and then you get to Exarch, then you get to Eater, and you start doing these bosses in order as you're going through the progression of the Atlas. So you have this kind of layered progression that doesn't really exist in POE 2. The endgame bosses in POE 2 are cool, and I like them, but they're far more tied to League mechanics than they are the actual growth of the Atlas. Which goes on to the next point where we're talking about League mechanics. You can't really do a map strategy in POE 2. In POE 1, I can just pick something I want to do. Like, I want to do essences, I'll just do essences. Or I want to do ultimatum, I'll be focusing ultimatum. And when I do that, every single map feels rewarding. Every single map I do will have an ultimatum. And I have a build that's designed to farm ultimatum. Every single map I go in will have ultimatum in it. Whereas in POE 2, because of the way the towers work, and the fact that you have to path through every map that's connected, you're forced to do these filler maps that you just don't care about. They don't have the thing you want to farm on them, and you're kind of just making your way through them to get to the good stuff, and that just feels bad. And then finally, challenges and rewards. The kind of challenges that you can do in POE 1, where you get the cosmetics for doing certain challenges, that keeps me grinding late into the league. I might be pretty rare on that. I don't know if a lot of people are really doing all the challenges every league, but pretty much every league I try and do every challenge in POE 1. POE 2 doesn't have any challenges yet. I'm sure that will come with time, but as of now, there's just that kind of endgame push. I have, again, goals. I think completing goals is something that is just completely lacking in POE 2, and they really need to fix it, because right now, I tend to hit like 75 to 80-ish on a character. My build is quote-unquote finished, so it's functioning how it's going to function if I get it to 95. There's no real difference in how it plays. I'll just be stronger at 95 than I am at 75 or 80. And then I just lose interest because my build is finished. Either I'll re-roll a new character, but far more often I just quit and wait until the next POE 1 league. So in conclusion, the Third Edict update has really nailed the story, trade, and crafting. Playing through the campaign is better than ever, and the new systems genuinely improve the game. But for me, the acts are still too long. I feel like they need to cut them down just in size so you can get through each individual area quicker. Also, alternate characters really need their progression sped up somehow. As it stands now, it feels like you're actually actively being punished if you're doing a second character because it takes so long. It just doesn't feel worth it. And the endgame progression still feels very bare bones compared to POE 1, although, as I said, this update really wasn't trying to address that, so hopefully next update we get a big endgame shift and we get some more interesting endgame. That said, I'm excited to see what GG does in the next update, when they hopefully tackle the endgame, because if POE 2 can reach the level of replayability that I find with POE 1's endgame, it's going to be very, very good game. It's going to be an unstoppable RPG as far as I can tell. But if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you aren't subscribed, please consider subscribing. It really helps the channel grow, and as always, thanks for watching, and I shall see you next time. Bye guys.